The wedding invitation hit the floor before I could stop myself from dropping it. Her name, Vivian, right there in gold ink, like a slap dressed up in calligraphy. 3 years. I'd spent 3 years building myself back from the rubble she left. 3 years of early mornings, brutal board meetings, and the kind of silence that teaches you who you actually are. And now she was inviting me to watch her walk down the aisle toward a man whose grandfather built his fortune before hers could even crawl. I almost threw it away. Then I found a handwritten note tucked behind the card. I hope you finally found someone worth standing beside you, Ethan. I read it twice, set it down, walked to my window, and I decided I was going to that wedding. And I was not walking in alone. I didn't plan what happened next. That afternoon, my driver slowed near the Meridian Shopping Complex in Lakeview District. A small crowd had gathered on the pavement. That particular kind of crowd that forms when people smell blood and call entertainment. I looked out of habit, and then I couldn't look away. 2 security guards were pushing a woman toward the curb. Not violently, worse. With the lazy indifference of men removing an inconvenience. Around her, shoppers in tailored coats watched. Someone was filming. A woman in pearls laughed without covering her mouth. The woman being removed stood completely still. She was tall, black, wearing clothes that had seen better days. A small bag sat at her feet, but her spine, God, her spine was straight. Her chin was level. She looked at those guards the way you look at something beneath you that you're choosing not to step on. I told my driver to stop. I don't fully know why. I'm a busy man. I have run Castleton Holdings for 6 years. I have passed hard moments in this city before and kept moving. But something about her stillness, the way she had chosen dignity like it was the one thing they couldn't take, made me open the door. The crowd noticed me before I reached her. Good. Let them. I stopped in front of her. She looked at me. Eyes dark, steady, intelligent, and carrying the particular wariness of someone who has learned not to trust sudden kindness from strangers. Are you all right? I asked. She answered in flawless Mandarin. I blinked. I had not expected that. I'm fine, she said. Thank you. What's your name? A pause. Zara, she said. Zara Ellison. The name was Western. The Mandarin was not. Nothing about her matched anything I was seeing. And before I had properly thought it through, I heard myself say, I have a wedding this weekend. I need someone to attend with me. One night. I'll cover everything. After that, we go our separate ways. She studied me for a long moment. And if I say no, then I leave, I said, and you never see me again. Something shifted at the corner of her mouth. Not quite a smile. What happens at the wedding? Hopefully nothing, I said, but I can't promise that. She picked up her bag. All right, she said. One night. That evening, I took her to the private retail suite at the Castleton Tower flagship. My assistant had made calls ahead. Stylists moved around Zara the way water moves around a stone, adjusting, presenting, measuring, while I sat near the window pretending to read emails. I kept failing. She moved through the room like someone who had done this before. Not the nervousness of a person unaccustomed to attention. No reaching for things like they were foreign. She held fabrics at arm's length and assessed them. She redirected a stylist who paired the wrong shoes with the wrong silhouette and explained exactly why, with a precision that made the stylist pause and quietly nod. Then the television in the corner switched to a financial segment about European trade corridors. Without looking up from the earrings she was considering, Zara said, they're wrong about the recovery timeline. The upstream indicators have been flat for 6 weeks. I set my phone down. You follow European markets? I follow most markets, she said, and turned away from screen. I spent the rest of the session watching her and understanding absolutely nothing. She quoted a French poet to a stylist who mentioned Paris. She caught an error in a contract draft my assistant forwarded to my phone. I had mentioned it aloud by accident and offered a correction so precise it stopped me mid-sentence. A woman living on the streets of Lakeview District who spoke Mandarin without an accent read financial markets and corrected my legal team. I said nothing. I filed every detail away. The gala venue was built to intimidate. Vaulted ceilings, crystal light. 200 of the city's most powerful people gathered in a room that smelled of money and quiet competition. Zara wore deep emerald that moved like water when she walked. The room noticed before I did. I watched conversations stall, table by table, as eyes tracked her. She didn't seem to register any of it. She simply walked. Then, I saw Vivian. Ivory dress. Diamonds. Every detail calculated. And for the first time in 3 years, she looked caught off guard. I placed my hand lightly at Zara's back. She's staring, Zara said without turning her head. She usually does. At you or at me? Tonight. I glanced sideways. You. Good, she said, and reached for her water glass. Vivian made her move during the first course. She approached with two friends flanking her, a formation I recognized, and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Ethan," she said warmly, as though we'd simply drifted apart. Then she turned to Zara with the precision of someone choosing exactly where to land. "And you must be his guest. I don't think we've been introduced." "Zara," she said, meeting the smile without performing it back. "Zara." Vivian repeated it slowly, like she was weighing it. "How lovely that Ethan brought someone. Where did you two meet?" "Lakeview," I said. "How romantic." Her voice was smooth. She tilted her head. "Zara, you must tell us about yourself. What do you do?" "At the moment," Zara said, "I'm enjoying the soup." A few people at the table suppressed smiles. Vivian didn't waver. "Of course." A pause. Then, "I only asked because Ethan has always been so generous, taking people under his wing, giving opportunities to those who wouldn't otherwise have them." She glanced around, making sure the audience was watching. "Tell me honestly, which shelter did he find you in?" Silence. The kind that feels like a hell breath. Zara set down her spoon. She looked at Vivian, not with anger, not with embarrassment, with the measured calm of someone who has survived far worse than a socialite with a sharpened tongue. Then she answered in French. Fluent, unhurried, entirely natural French. And within 30 seconds, the European investor 2 seats away, a man named Fontaine, sat forward with visible interest as the two of them moved into a full, technical conversation about cross-border capital strategy and what current Asian market signals meant for long-term European positioning. Vivian stood at the edge of the table for a full minute. Then she quietly withdrew. The evening continued to turn against her. A gallery representative approached Zara after overhearing her assess a painting near the entrance. Within minutes, Zara had dated the work by brushstroke, traced it to a private collection that had surfaced briefly at a Paris auction 4 years prior, and estimated its current value with enough accuracy that the representative later pulled me aside to confirm it with undisguised respect. A financial analyst at the main table made a confident statement about projected sector returns. Zara corrected him in one sentence, cited the specific report he had misread, and returned to her drink without making him feel small. The room was shifting, not loudly, not in any way Vivian could address, but the attention had moved, and it had settled around the woman everyone had been told to dismiss. I leaned toward her during a lull. "Who are you?" I asked, genuinely. She looked at me. Something moved behind her composure, deep, old, not quite ready to surface. "It's complicated," she said. Before I could respond, the ballroom doors opened. The movement at the entrance had a different weight to a normal late arrival. Security personnel repositioned. Senior staff straightened. The subtle choreography that happens when someone of serious consequence enters a room unannounced. An elderly man walked in slowly, silver-haired, supported by a quiet aide. The room responded without instruction. Conversation stopped. People rose. I didn't recognize him immediately, but every senior executive around me stood. This man was not simply wealthy. He was the kind of man that wealthy people stood up for without being asked. Chairman Roland CEO, founder of CEO Pacific Group, a privately held empire spanning finance, infrastructure, and technology across 4 continents. His eyes moved across the ballroom. Slow, deliberate, and then they stopped. Fixed on Zara, his hands began to shake. The composed authority of a man who had built an empire across 4 decades, cracked open in a single moment. What replaced it was entirely human. Disbelief, grief, recognition arriving all at once, too fast and too large to hold. He walked toward our table. The entire ballroom watched in silence. He stopped in front of Zara. His voice, when it came, was barely held together. 3 years, he said. "I finally found you." Zara had gone completely still. She stared at the old man. And then, slowly, from somewhere deep and fractured inside her, something began to return. Her lips parted. She whispered one word. Harabiaji, grandfather. And in the silence that followed that single word, every person in that ballroom began to understand exactly who they had been laughing at. Zara Ellison was not her real name. It was a name she had given herself in a hospital bed after being pulled from the ocean, barely alive, with no identification and a memory shattered by trauma. Her real name was Zara C.O. Ellison, the sole heir to the C.O. Pacific fortune. Half Korean, half British Nigerian, raised between 2 continents, fluent in 4 languages before she was 20. 3 years ago, a private plane had gone down over open water. The staff had not survived. Zara had been found by a passing vessel, injured, unidentifiable, and carrying nothing but instincts and an education she couldn't yet explain. The woman Vivian had publicly mocked in front of 200 witnesses was the granddaughter of the most powerful man in the room. Vivian's new husband crossed the ballroom toward Zara, expression rearranged into warmth, words forming around a careful apology. Zara let him finish. Then she said, "I want to be honest with you because I think this room could use more of it tonight." She paused. "You're not apologizing because you were wrong. You're apologizing because the calculation changed. I understand how that works." She looked at him steadily. "But the people who will have access to my family's resources are the people who treated me the same way when they believed I had none. I had no answer for that. And I realized I didn't want one. I just wanted to keep sitting across from her." If this story moved you, like it, drop a comment, and subscribe. Every week, there are new stories waiting. And some of them, just like this one, begin long before you expect them to.